Guys, what's going on? I hope you guys are well. So, guys, I'm just about to go on a rant about boxing and how terrible this sport can be for boxing fans, and how we continuously get robbed time and time again. Errol Spence v Terence Crawford, I'm going to just say it point blank and simple. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Errol Spence v Terence Crawford, I can guarantee you, is not going to happen. This fight has got another Khan Brook written all over it, over and again. And you know who's at fault? Us boxing fans. Us boxing fans are a joke. Because we continue to support these guys and support these fighters. And listen, rightfully so. But we never seem to get the big fights that we want. Why? There's always the real big super fights never get made when we need them. In UFC, they get made. There's a man that's controlling it and he makes those fights. But in boxing, never get made. Mayweather Pacquiao, it got made way past its prime, right? An example here of a super fight, Khan Brook, which I believe would have been the biggest fight, probably one of the biggest fight in British boxing history, right? The only fight that for me would have outdone that in terms of pay-per-view would probably, or not probably, but sure, Joshua v Fury. I believe Khan Brook would have done over 1 million pay-per-view buys, right? And it didn't happen. And now, it doesn't matter whose fault it was, right? Yes, people say it was Amir Khan's fault that the fight didn't happen, right? He was the A-side, he was the one calling shots. But the fact is, the fight didn't happen. And we didn't get the fight we wanted. And the same thing, just like Amir thought he was the big shot, the same thing that Spence thinks he's the big shot against Crawford. And he feels that I'll get the lion's share. There's a bit of a difference here because Crawford's one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world. And Brook wasn't. He was never one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world. Also, Terence Crawford has accomplished more than Errol Spence in boxing thus far. And Brook hadn't accomplished more than Khan. Khan hadn't actually accomplished more than Brook. But that's beside the point. That's beside the point. The fact is that if Khan Brook happens now, it's rubbish. We never got the fight when it should have happened, when the fight would have done probably over 1 million pay-per-view buys. But yeah, we got it. We got it. We never, I don't think we're ever going to get that fight. Errol Spence v Terence Crawford is also going to be that, because in my opinion, the window for that fight is the next 1.5 years, because Spence is outgrowing the weight. He's going to move up, and we're never going to get that fight. And how many times are boxing fans, us as boxing fans, going to continue to get robbed and time again with the fights that we want, we never get to see them. And everything now has just become about guys' ego, guys thinking that, oh, I'm the big fish, I'm the big dog, so I deserve this, I deserve that, I deserve that. But it's not like these guys are making millions, right? These guys are making millions in these fights that they're having. And the fight, everyone talks about, well, you know what? Spence is look at the pay-per-view numbers that Spence has got and look at the pay-per-view numbers that Crawford has done. The fact is, Spence is going to have his biggest payday fighting Terence Crawford. Without Terence Crawford, Spence isn't going to make that money. Spence isn't going to make that money. Now, the other comparison, the difference between the Brook Khan situation is that Brook hadn't made serious money. Up until he fought Golovkin, Brook hadn't made crazy, like I'm talking mega money. Terence Crawford is making $4 to $6 million per fight. We know that. We know that. He's making $4 to $6 million. So he's hardly desperate and hardly in needing of Spence because he's making so much money as it is. Brook was in a desperate situation because Brook hadn't made that serious amount of money and he had to secure his self financially for himself and his family. He had to secure his financial future. So I can understand why Brook, even as world champion, was willing to take the lesser split because he wanted to secure his family's future, and that's understandable. And that's why he probably jumped in there with Golovkin, because he wanted to secure the bag. He hadn't made that that money yet where he could have his future secured. After the Golovkin fight, he was probably more secured financially. Whereas where Terence Crawford is secure financially, he's making $4 to $6 million a fight. He's hardly gonna, you know, not say to Errol Spence, I'm desperate, I'll just fight you for 70-30. Terence Crawford's making a lot of money. He's not just going to tour into Errol Spence's demands because Errol Spence thinks he's a big fish. It's nonsense, man. And I know it seems like I'm going on a rant, but the fact is that the business of boxing is nonsense. This never used to be like this. Why do you think boxing used to be so adored back in the day? And people talk about the golden era and the golden ages about boxing because the fights used to happen when we wanted the fights to happen. But the fights don't seem to happen when we want them to happen. They happen when the guys are past their prime, or they don't happen at all in Khan Brook's case. And for me, this is another Khan Brook because I don't see this fight happening at all. Because Errol Spence is going to outgrow the weight. He's going to outgrow the weight. He's going to move up to 154 or 160 because he's getting... Errol Spence is a big welterweight and he's getting older. He's going to outgrow the weight. So if that happens, the fight's never going to happen because Crawford's not going to go and chase Spence and fight at 154 or fight at 160. He's not going to do that and give him a massive advantage because Terence Crawford, we know, started his career at 135. He's a small welterweight. He's not a big welterweight. He's not going to jump up to 160 to fight Spence. So, to be honest with you, I think we need to kind of forget about this fight. I don't see it happening. I think I'd be more surprised if it happened than if it doesn't, to be fair. Because I think there's more chances of this fight not happening because of the reasons I've just pointed out. I think it's a joke. I think it's an absolute joke and an embarrassment to the sport that we've got matchups like this that the fans fantasize about, the fans would dream about, and we don't get them. And here in the UK, Khan Brook was exactly the same. It was seen as probably the biggest fight at that time, and it just didn't happen. It just didn't happen, and we got robbed of a mega fight. And then, you know what the other problem is guys like myself, guys like some of the boxing fans that we have commenting on my channel and other channels, is that we support a particular fighter. And in the Khan Brook situation, I've been... For years, while I've been doing my channel, everybody knows that I support Amir Khan. But that's the problem. That's the problem with boxing. That's why we have our boxing fans that support a certain fighter, right? And we just put the points across why that fighter deserves the big split, or why that fighter deserves this, why that, because we have an invested emotional interest in that particular fighter, rather than the sport is being hurt. The sport is being damaged. We're not getting the big fights. We never got Khan Brook. We may never get Errol Spence, Terence Crawford. But you know what the problem is? Like I said, we invest emotional interest in these fighters, invest ourselves in these fighters, but we forget the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is that the fights that we want to see never happen. Like I said, we never got the Khan Brook fight. We never got it. Irrespective whether it was Khan's fault or whoever's fault it was, we never got the fight. I don't care whose fault it was. We never got it. Errol Spence, Terence Crawford, we may never get it. I don't care whose fault it is. I just want to see the fight. And we're not going to get it. And it's just sad. As a boxing fan, I'm so, oh man, it's just, I don't know what to say, man. I don't know what to say. Why is it that the boxing just keeps disappointing us like this? And I don't know. I don't know. It angers me. It angers me that we didn't get these big fights, you know, because there's nothing better for a boxing fan when we get these big fights, when they finally do happen, the adrenaline. As a boxing fan, like, I get so pumped when there's a big fight, just to build up, just can't wait for it. But I don't know, man. I don't know. And listen, to this day, it upsets me that the Khan Brook fight didn't happen. Honestly, it's so, like, oh man, it upsets me. Like, and if the fight happens now, I just still pee me off, because we're not going to get the true reflection of that fight. We're not going to get the true reflection of that fight. And it just angers me and upsets me that, you know, the fight didn't happen. And the same thing is happening with Errol Spence, Terence Crawford. And what you've got to understand is that a lot of people, you know, a lot of people here in the UK definitely give Amir a lot of stick for that. But the problem is that what happened with the Khan Brook situation is going to happen with a lot of other big mega fights. We're seeing it with Crawford Spence, and this is not the only one. It's gonna happen with other big fights in the future, because this is how the way boxing is going now. The really mega fights, there's a guy with an ego, or there's a guy that thinks he's a big fish or a big dog, and the fights are just never gonna happen. And as a boxing fan, and as boxing fans that watch my channel, that watch other channels, we need to stop that, because we have the power to stop that, because we're the paying public. We have the power to stop fighters doing that. Just stop, just boycott it. Stop watching it. The thing is, we can't even do that. So that's never going to happen, because we love boxing and we're never going to stop watching it. So this is never going to stop. This is always going to happen. The fighters of today don't have the mentality of the fighters of the yesteryears. That's why the fighters of the yesteryears are seen in such... They're held in such high regard. Why do you think people like Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Leonard, Marvin Hagler, George Foreman, Joe Frazier, you know, some of the great champions we've had of the past, you know, why do you think they're held in such high regard? Because they didn't care about this business side of things. They didn't have an ego. They just wanted to fight the best. And the best matchups happened. That's why those guys are held as they're seen as people champions. Because they fought who the public wanted to fight at that time. You know, Muhammad Ali fought George Foreman when people thought he was crazy and he could get killed. But he fought him. He didn't care about that. You know, and unfortunately, ever since this Floyd Mayweather era, it's just become all about business. It's all become about business, and the fights that we really want to see don't happen. Simple as that. And I have my reservations about Fury Joshua as well, but I just think with that one, I think the reason why I think that one's going to happen, because I think both guys have come to terms and the money's so huge that it's a 50-50 fight. Joshua's come to terms with that. Fury's come to terms. Fury was always with terms with that. He always said 50-50, but Joshua was initially saying, no, I'm the bigger draw, this, that. But now even Joshua's come to terms with 50-50. So once you sort out the split, everything else can be sorted out. Now it's just whether the other hurdles can be sorted. But with these other fights like the Khan Brook, the split was the problem. The split in the sense that one guy thought he was the bigger dog and the bigger fish, and he deserved the lion's share. And the same with Crawford Spence. One guy thinks he's the bigger dog and the bigger fish, and he deserves the lion's share. And the fight's not going to happen because of that. Because Kell Brook was too proud to take to take the split that Amir Khan was offering him, and Terence Crawford is too proud also to be taking the split that Errol Spence is offering. So the fight's not going to happen, and that's not just a case with Khan Brook or Errol Spence, Terence Crawford. That's going to be the case with many fights in the future, and that's just what we as boxing fans are going to have to put up with, right? It's a fact. It's a fact. Leave your thoughts, guys. Let me know what you think. I know you're probably going to think this is a rant, but at the end of the day, the rant, we're not getting the fight. So, you know, as a boxing fan, you're just going to be peed off, aren't you? Leave your thoughts, guys. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. And guys, make sure to smash that like button. Give me a like. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.